Okay, we'll call the meeting to order, please. And roll call, Trina?
Mr. Stracco?
Here.
Mr. Landuse?
Here.
Mr. Leonard?
Here.
Mr. Zupnik?
Here.
Ms. Patras?
Here.
And Ms. Gutschall.
Here.
Adequate notice of this meeting of the Bedminster Township Land Use Board was filed with the Township Clerk and sent to the Burnersville News, Burnersville, the Courier News, Somerville, and to all subscribers, and posted at the Township Municipal Building, 1 Miller Lane, Bedminster, New Jersey, on January 9th, 2017.
Okay, let's stand for the flag salute, please. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have no minutes. We have correspondence from their attorney, Jeff Lear, for Leamington Road, and they've asked for an adjournment to August 10th, 2017. So I assume that's when we'll put them on the agenda, right, Trina? We'll put them on that agenda?
As long as there's no objection. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Do we need any further notice on that?
They will renotice.
They'll renotice. Okay, all right. So if there's anyone here for that application, it's all 10th rescheduled. We have 4 resolutions that we need approval. The first one we have is Raritan Headwaters Association. I have you had a chance to look at it? And we need a motion, please.
I'll make the motion to approve. Second.
Mr. Stracco?
Aye.
Mr. Landuse?
Aye.
Mr. Zupnik?
Aye.
Mr. Travaglini?
Aye.
Ms. Patras?
Aye.
And Ms. Gutschall.
Aye.
Take a reason why I wasn't.
Were you absent?
Oh,
Were you?
was this one?
You were not here.
Okay. Oh, this was June 1st. Okay, that's right.
Excuse me, I just lost my agenda. Here we go. Okay. Okay, also Route 202-206 Realty, that was for an extension, the resolution. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Trina?
Ms. Stracco?
Aye.
Mr. Landuse?
Aye.
Mr. Zupnik?
Aye.
Mr. Travaglini?
Aye.
Ms. Patras?
Aye.
And Ms. Gutschall.
Aye. We have Alice Roche resolution, also an extension of time. Do we hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Stracco?
Aye.
Mr. Landuse?
Aye.
Mr. Zupnik?
Aye.
Mr. Travaglini?
Aye.
Ms. Patras?
Aye.
And Ms. Gutschall.
Did you call me?
Yes.
Aye. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the application that we call Verizon Wireless Resolution, do I hear a motion for that? Motion?
So moved.
Mm-hmm.
I was here for that second, right?
You were here for that?
Yes. So I second that one.
Mr. Landuse?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Zupnik?
Aye.
Mr. Travaglini?
Aye.
And Ms. Gutschall.
Aye. Okay, this is the time when, if you have anything you'd like to discuss, the public, it's not on the agenda. Yes, please. Name and address, please.
Good evening, Brian Haggerty, Fairview Drive, Bedminster. Not representing the Board of Education or any other governmental group here as a private citizen. I do have a question. It is sort of on the agenda, but it is and it isn't. I heard discussion of whether the request for an extension by 1 month, which a certain applicant seems to be doing habitually now, can I surmise from the discussion that that's at the discretion of the Land Use Board? The Land Use Board could say, at some point, could say, no, you're done, you've stretched it out too long, it's over. I assume that's covered in law when that becomes discretionary. And could say that August 10th, really, half town's out of town. And it may not be the best time. There'll be a lot more people back in September, even October. Not to advocate one way or the other, but just ask if you could do that.
I understand. I'll refer to our attorney.
Well, the applicant has been directed to renotice for we're certainly welcome to appear at that meeting, provide a publishing survey notice in accordance with the land use law. They are entitled to bring their application to this board to be heard at that time. Now, if you want to raise the point that you're making tonight, that there may be other interested members of the public that are not here because of vacations and scheduling or otherwise, would the board or the applicant be willing to extend its meeting into a September date? You're certainly free to do that, but the applicant wouldn't be constrained to do so in the event they finish their presentation, and the board would not be constrained to do so in the event that they heard all of the relevant testimony they felt they needed to hear to adjudicate the application. I'm saying that as a matter of practice, this board needs to have applications that are filed, scheduled accordingly. Okay, and if the applicant has already been instructed to notice for the August 10th meeting, then they should in fact go ahead and do that.
I understand they need to notice or do the August 10th, and I appreciate your answer. I just want to clarify the point that when the board is asked to extend, postpone, reschedule by a month, is that the only issue before you is that then you are forced as the board to reschedule for a month? Or when you come back and say, that's not a good date, to give a reason for that, I'm not allowed to do that. I'm exploring what the ability of the body is to do what they think best.
Without being overly familiar with filing.
I'm talking about the law. I'm talking about the municipal land use law.
Well, the application has not been deemed complete yet. Okay?
No, I'm sorry. This one is just so I can. I know, Tom, you haven't been involved in this one, but this is an application for a D variance that has been submitted. It's been deemed complete. They had one public hearing. They've requested to adjourn to meetings a couple of times because it's my understanding they're revising their plan. They have not yet come back. So it's an application that's currently pending before the board. The applicant is requesting that the application be carried. They've already been told that they need to renotice when they do come in, and they grant the extension to the board of the time to act.
The board, once an application has been deemed complete, is scheduled for a public hearing. In this case, the public hearing is actually commenced.
Yes.
The board is constrained to act within certain statutorily prescribed time periods, and depending on the relief, it could be a pretty short amount of time. So without the applicant agreeing to an extension, it seems like, based on what Mr. Ferrero was saying, they have agreed to extend the board's time to act on their application. We can work within the statutory limits, but
So
the short answer to your question is yes. There are time periods under which the board must act on a particular application that's been deemed complete and scheduled for a public hearing.
So it is essentially constrained from denying the 1 month and saying they can have a 2 month because it could turn out toward the end that the application would be approved by default for failure to act in a timely manner.
There are administrative approval mechanisms in the municipal land use law that do indicate and do allow for automatic approvals if the board doesn't act within a certain amount of time. Now, the applicant in this case, and I don't want to get too much into this application.
Well, it's happened in other applications, so I want to pick on this particular application, but it's happened before.
I guess ideally the applicant could have extended the board's time, or could agree to extend the board's time to a further date if they so choose to do so. But perhaps here we have a situation where the board wants to continue the public hearing, they want to do it as soon as possible, and the applicant agreed to extend the time to act through August 10th, and they didn't go any further than that. So there's always an impetus for a board to move forward applications where there is a completeness determination and the public hearing is actually started. It's not necessarily good practice to allow them to linger.
Right. Thank you. That's care of my second question as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who has anything? Seeing none, we'll move along. Paul, we have a couple of applications that need completion.
Yes, Madam Chairman, 1120 Lamington Road LLC is a subdivision, is a proposed subdivision of a property along Lamington Road. It's, I believe, the first application we will see relative to the township lot averaging plan provisions, which have been in place for some time. I wrote my completeness letter on July 7th. There are a number of items that need to be done in order for the application to be deemed complete, not the least of which is they are requesting a variance, therefore it's a major subdivision under the ordinance, and they have to modify their application to be for preliminary and final major subdivision. There's also a number of items in the letter that are fairly substantial that, in my opinion, must be submitted before they can be heard by the board. Additionally, since this is a lot averaging subdivision, and part of the justification on the ordinance for a lot averaging subdivision is that it is a better environmental solution, my letter recommends that they go to the Environmental Commission before they come here.
Which they have not.
They have not
They have not done that yet.
scheduled.
Okay.
So it would be my recommendation to the board to deem the application incomplete, advise the applicant of that, and then also advise them to coordinate being heard before the Environmental Commission.
Okay. Do we need a roll call on that for incomplete?
Generally, it would be a motion, a second, and a roll call.
Right, for
So moved.
incomplete. Okay.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Is it incomplete, Paul, or
Oh,
is it rejected because it's minor and it needs to be major?
It's incomplete because it's a major and not a minor. So even if they had submitted for a major, it would be incomplete because a lot of information is missing.
Okay.
We need a second.
Second.
Mr. Stackhouse?
Aye.
Mr. Rodelius?
Just to be clear, we're voting to deem it incomplete.
Correct.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Zupnik?
Aye.
Mr. Travaglini?
Aye.
Ms. Patters? Aye. And Ms. Petrol?
Aye. And the second one is Old Farm Orchards.
This is Old Farm Orchards. This is an application for a cider production facility on Route 206 North, opposite the Church of the Hills. It's a farm activity with a commercial aspect to it in that they're going to be growing apples, they're going to be making hard cider on the property. My letter dated July 10th indicates the application is incomplete. Really, the two items there that are the most significant, in my opinion, are the Board of Health approval, although it's on the agenda for the Board of Health for next Thursday. And it's also, because of its nature as the commercial facility, essentially on 206, it's my recommendation that it be heard by the Environmental Commission. And while it's my recommendation that this application be deemed incomplete, I think it's not unrealistic that they could submit the additional documentation and have a completeness determination and a hearing at one of the meetings in August.
In August. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're deeming it incomplete now.
Right, but in August, you may be deeming it complete.
Correct.
Scheduling for a hearing, and if the documentation is all together, Trina and I will work with the applicant to get the notice out so they can be heard if that's the case.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Seconded.
Mr. Stackhouse?
Aye.
Mr. Rodelius?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Zupnik?
Aye.
Mr. Travaglini?
Aye.
Ms. Patters? Aye. And Ms. Petrol?
Aye. We have any planning board members want to say anything? Our two normal planning board members are not here tonight, but I see none. Okay, we have EDC Headworks.
This is another application that it's incomplete, where I've been in contact with the engineer and I anticipate that they will bring something back, but I don't know what their schedule is.
Again, do we need a roll call on that, or we
No.
just continuation? Continuation, okay. And 1120 Lamington Road?
That's again the one that's incomplete, and I don't think that's
Right.
ready enough to put tentatively on the agenda.
Okay,
Although Old Farm Orchards, I would think that you could tentatively put that on an agenda. I don't know what meetings we're having in August.
The 3rd and the 10th.
this, yeah, 3rd and the 10th.
I would suggest the 10th, if we're going to have the people here, only because allows them to have time to do a notice after the Board of Health meeting next week.
Okay.
And also allows time for the Environmental Commission
Okay.
to hear it.
And we also have the Lamington Road on there.
We have Lamington Road, and while that is a big application, and I understand that, Mr. Haggerty has a bit of a point. They monopolize our agenda by saying
Yes.
we're going to be there and then not coming.
Right.
So I would say that Old Farm Orchard should be tentatively put on the agenda, and if they're ready to go, they should be heard before Lamington.
Yes, right, sure. Okay, so we'll put it for August 10th, presumably.
Assuming that they get the documentation.
Okay. Okay. So I guess we're ready for our hearing. Great Oak Farm.
Could I say that on August 3rd, we
Yeah.
have no business?
We don't.
We have nothing.
As of right now.
Okay, so that might get canceled.
Look at the face. The face.
The street estate. I wasn't. You could go. Have some cards.
Tonight.
Well, that's okay. I don't have to come 100 miles, so that would be good.
Madam Chairman, my name is Brian Fahey, and I'm a lawyer with offices in Far Hills, and I'm representing tonight Great Oak Farm LLC. Pleasure to be back. I haven't been here in a couple years in this room. I used to come pretty regularly for meetings.
Yes, you're familiar with us.
Yeah. So thank you for hearing tonight. We have 4 witnesses on our list tonight. We had 5, but we skinnied it down to 4, so I want to get right into it if possible, to see if we can get through all 4 reasonably quickly.
Okay.
This is the property known as, it's block 21 lot 6, all in the R10 zone, commonly known as 330 Holland Road. Okay, we have some one C1 and several C2 variances in this application to be heard. My first witness is Paul Pizarro. Paul, you want to come up?
You want to swear all your witnesses in first? Do you want to do that? Swear?
That's fine with me, sure.
Yeah, we usually do that. So.
All right, we have Edward Sunderland, we have Elvin Engel, and we have Paul Fox and Peter Steck.
Gentlemen, why don't you step forward and we'll do this collectively. Can you all please raise your right hands? You swear affirm that any testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do. Counsel, as you introduce each witness, you will take their individual names and professional.
Very good, thank you.
Now, Brian, you're an attorney, right, not an engineer? Because some people split up.
Right, they did.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, who's counting?
Yeah, I guess that's true. Good with letters, not so much with numbers. Okay, Paul, why don't you, for the record, tell our friends on the board here who you are and your name, your address.
Sure. First of all, thank you for entertaining these proceedings tonight. Thank you for having us here. My wife and I are here to present what we hope is a great opportunity to build what we think is a beautiful horse farm at 330 Holland Road. We currently live in New York on a horse farm. It's just too big for us. We'd like to move and downsize a bit, which is why we looked around and fell in love with 330 Holland Road. We love the community, we love the land and the people, and we're excited about the process. One of the things we were able to do is find Edward and Linda Sutherland, who are building an 18th century home, and we're really thrilled about that. And we want to make sure the barn matches the home, and the property is a compound look that is consistent with that 18th century look. And again, that's the reason we're here.
Let me stop you for 1 second. Let's clarify, the home that you're building was already fully approved.
Correct.
And in process and construction, not part of this application.
That's correct.
Correct. I was there today, and I see it, and it's,
Isn't it?
it's absolutely beautiful. Yep,
We're looking forward to moving it.
yep.
I'm not sure what else you need from me, but we...
Why don't you talk to us about the vision for the equestrian facility that we're here to
sure.
talk about tonight?
Okay, very good. As I said, we are downsizing our facility. We have a fairly large facility in New York. We board horses there. That is not our intention to do that here. Our intention here is to keep our own horses. My wife and I have 6 horses. We are building an 8-stall barn, as you probably saw. The riding arena is a fairly large facility, but the reason we decided to build an Olympic-sized facility is because we're lucky enough to have a couple of horses at international capability. And this isn't dressage. And it's hard to train a horse at that level without the appropriate facility. So we decided to try to build an Olympic-sized facility, which is why it is what it is.
It's important for you to have the Olympic-sized facility because that's the way, with how the horses need to train.
Exactly right, yes.
What about materials? What about design? Just give us just broad strokes. We're going to have Edward testify much more on point, but we'll just talk about the vision. What you guys you want it to look like?
Right. As I said, my wife and I, who's here behind me, wanted to build a period-style home, 18th century. And so if you've seen the house, you see that it's a cedar shake roof, and the moldings and the windows are period design. And we asked Edward to design the barn to match the house. And what our intention was is so that it looked like it was all part of an 18th century farm. So that's the vision, and that was the intention.
Okay, what about lighting on the farm? And we're going to have the engineer testify, but I want to just have you go through how you intend to deal with the lighting issue on the farm.
Yeah, our intention with the farm and the barn is to have obviously lighting inside, but that would be subdued, and of course you wouldn't see it from the outside. And we would just have normal, lighting outside for safety purposes, nothing spectacular or big. That's not the intention. We want to be part of the community, not a nuisance to the community.
Okay. Now, what about the access road to the equestrian facility? Let's talk about that a little bit. This is raised in the engineer's review letter.
Sure.
Tell us about that road.
When we purchased the property, we found out that we own the easement that is the access road. And that access road would be used to access the barn, not the house. The house is a separate driveway. That road is sufficient to handle all the traffic that we see on it. It certainly can handle horse trailers because it does now. Next to us on the, I guess if you're looking at the property to the right, there's an equestrian facility. They have horse trailers. Obviously, they've used that road to get their horse there.
That's the road they used to access?
It's the same road. So it's a shared driveway, basically, shared road. So we should have no trouble with access on that road.
Are you going to be boarding horses for others or just your own?
It is not our intention to do that. As I said, we have 6 horses and only 8 stalls, and we're moving here to get out of that business, not to get into it.
So you don't intend to have other people using that roadway other than for your own purposes, for your own equipment?
That is correct.
Your own facility. Okay. What about signs? You're going to have a sign?
If we have a sign, it would be a small one, just so it pointed to where our farm was.
Okay. That has to be approved.
We understand.
Now, finally, let's talk a little bit about the network of bridle paths that run in and around Bedminster. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Are you aware that they are within your property?
Yes, I am.
Okay. What do you know about them? And talk a little bit about the bridle paths.
We've been there almost 2 years now. We've owned the property, and we occasionally go on weekends. We've met a number of the riders who are very, very nice, by the way, and it's spectacular. As we just said, my wife and I are horse people. We are going to do everything we can to accommodate the path riders. We understand that they have been blocked in some of the portions, and we're going to do whatever we can to accommodate them. Can't say exactly what that would look like because of the paddock space and things like that, but I'm sure we can find an accommodation that will work for everybody.
Right. You don't intend to block them or disallow the use of the bridle paths?
That is not our intention.
Okay, good. Okay, that's all I have from this witness. I'm happy to pass the witness off to the board and to the public.
The board have any questions? No? No. Okay.
Okay?
No.
Brian, can you just have him spell his last name?
Sure. B as in boy, I-S-A-R-O.
Thank you.
First name is Paul.
Oh, excuse me, a public? Yes. Mm-hmm.
Once again, Brian Haggerty, Fairview Drive, Bedminster, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do I need to swear for the questioning, or is it just?
Well, you ask a question, sometimes questions turn into statements, so maybe it's better practice to swear.
Yeah, swear me in.
Swear from any testimony about giving this matters the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
So help me, what I do. My point is more to the Land Use Board than to you, sir. Welcome to Bedminster. You know I object to everything. My problem with this is, why does he have to get variances to have a horse farm in Bedminster? The folks looking at the land use
That's the kind of
master plan need to work it a little bit. I mean, I know where this property is. It's over there in that farm. I'm at the very edge of town. It's out of that farmland there. And as the mayor once said, if we can't let this happen in Bedminster, we've got to fix that. So thank you for coming. Welcome to Bedminster, and if anybody's objecting to this, they can talk to me off to the side. I guess I made a statement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, my next witness is Edward Sunderland, who is a designer responsible for the aesthetics and looks of the facility. Edward, would you, for the record, please tell us your name and your address?
Edward Sunderland. I reside in Connecticut, 12 Strong Road. And,
Okay, what city?
It's South Windsor,
Okay, good.
10 minutes northeast of Hartford.
All right, now you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, your history, and your practice?
Yeah, I been in business for 40 years. My field of expertise is designing authentic 18th century architecture. All of the details for those homes. We also have extensive experience with restoration of existing buildings, dismantling buildings endangered and documenting them, doing the plans, finding new locations for them and putting them up for clients to become useful homes again. I have an architectural millwork shop that makes everything I detail and draw to the specificities of the period, 18th century colonial architecture. And that's generally what I do, and sometimes I sleep.
Good, good. Okay, why don't you give us a little bit of flavor about the instruction and direction for this project?
Counsel, I testify. Are you offering Mr. Sunderland as an expert? Or are you
Not an
architect?
He's a designer.
Okay. I don't know if we can recognize Mr. Sunderland as an expert witness. We're certainly aware of his qualifications
Right.
as a licensed.
I do have an architect to testify
Okay.
next.
Question was again?
I want you to share with us the instruction and direction for this project.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was presented the plans, the preliminary plans for the stable and arena, and as Paul had mentioned, my task was to make the facade of that, all of the exterior elevations compatible with the house that we're building. So just to have it fit on the land as it should, to have it look appropriate as a structure beyond just its utilitarian use. Rather large buildings, and so I looked at that and I thought, I have no idea what I'm going to do with this at all. And I'm building a 1950s style of house presently. So, well, obviously we have double hung windows, we have a wonderful pedimented front doorway, just all the wonderful stuff of the house. So I want to bring some of those features onto this building, but this is a bigger statement. It's very grand, starting with the size and the roof pitches and the shape of the floor plan lent itself to doing something more dynamic with the building, something more important. I wanted it to feel significant but not be overstated for a country setting, and so I determined to, we have seen the drawings, I think, perhaps, use the appropriate windows, double-hung windows, pedimented double-hung windows. There's a row of them all the way around the arena. That's a lot of windows. We needed a lot of light, so I just, the idea was to have the double hungs all the way around, and they're very large. So pedimenting the tops, that was good, and then I came to pilasters, placing those all around that whole facade, and the wainscoting and exterior wainscoting. So just everywhere that you would look on the building, you would see something of interest that pertained to this period of time, mid 18th century to the federal period to the early 1800s. I have circular windows in the gable ends of the buildings. I created two very large portico entries with wonderful arch detail. Are you looking at some of that, I'm guessing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. And I love columns, so I have a modicum of columns on the house. Here I've taken that motif and brought it to, rather than having just squared posts under the lean-to overhang in the front of the building and at the back of the front of the stable and at the back of the stable, I detailed it with rows of, creating more of a colonnade, rows of columns, Doric capitals and plinths, tapered columns. And then, okay, so then the biggest task of the entire project is how to contain, how to bring the arena down to a human scale where you would look at that and feel, wow, that's such, what is that building? That is just such a great looking building. It looks large, but it looks so inviting, you know? And these are things you think about while you're drawing, and just one idea goes to another, and so, you know, you just have to be excited about it when you're working on it to begin with. But I've got a very huge roof. It's the building is, as you know, 200 feet long, 100 feet deep. The original plan for that roof was a 4.5 pitch roof, which is as shallow as you can make a roof and still put wood shingles on it. You can't go lower than that because they wouldn't perform for any length of time. So what to do with the roof to begin with? I've described some of the things in the facade of it, and the portico entry, and the columns, and the arches, and then we have fanlight windows over that portico entry. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm remembering from what I drew. The roof there, it's just a vast expanse of.
Can I interrupt
area.
for 1 second?
Sure.
Just explain to the board, when you talk about the pitch of the roof.
Yes.
I'm not so certain that they understand the technical
Right,
aspects of the
okay,
pitch.
well, so here's an approximate 4.5 pitch right there. And most large structures that you see, and even in houses, are built with roofs. Often, if they're trying to do something colonial, this was not the attempt for the arena, but it's contained its height by virtue of having a 4.5 pitch, a shallow pitch, which is good.
So that's the height of the peak relative to the width of the cylinder.
Right, and the structure that the LVL beams have to carry and all of that stuff. So it would be easier to make this look appealing if I had a steeper pitch, but I couldn't do any of that, and we didn't want to make the building too tall. So this vast expanse of roof, what do you do on top of that? And so I came up with the dormer details that you see there. I think I have 12 arched roofed Palladian window dormers on the arena. And I just love those. They're about 12 feet tall. They're copper roofed entirely, all the way front to back. No, it's my hope that they won't have any standing seam in them. Just clear copper on each of those domes. Have such a presence. Again, let's picture the wood roof with those on top, and then one of the crowning features would be the cupola, which has to be big, and some had to be a definitive feature on that roof, and having a cupola would be great. Most cupolas you see are always too small, whatever building they're on. It could be your garage, it could be your house, it could be a barn that's such a great barn, what the heck happened there? I don't know. That also looks like a cupola, you know. So this definitely looks like a cupola. It's 8-sided. It has, on the arena, is the largest of the two cupolas. There are two large roofs. 8-sided, arched, again, Georgian arched vents on each of those sides. We need that we also need the structure for ventilation. It's awesome for that. And then the dome is again copper. I think you may be looking at the CAD drawings right now. I'm not exactly sure, but
Yeah.
my drawings are hand-drawn, and
Looking at
Yeah.
Mr. Engel's drawings, I guess.
Yeah.
He's going to testify next, so he'll go through
those are
that.
nice, but I do have the original drawings I did by hand here. I brought them with their details, if you care to take a look at those at some point. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, my stuff looks less CAD. And,
Because you draw it by hand, right?
yeah, I draw everything by hand. It's the most exciting way to draw anything. It's an inspiring medium and method. So, well, it's great to see what I drew, because I was just trying to remember it all. Yeah, so, I mean, really, look at that cupola. Oh, you don't have that cupola. Here.
Yeah, we do.
I got
We
it.
do.
There you go.
We
That's
do.
the arena cupola.
That's what we
These
have.
part of the package, Trina? These?
No.
No,
they are not.
You want to introduce these
Yes.
as exhibit, Brian?
Here.
Yes, please.
Okay, so let's mark this as Exhibit A1 with today's date.
Okay, let me,
Sure.
This is a hand sketch by Mr. Sunderland that formed the basis for...
it's a
for any
copy of.
architectural plans.
Yeah, it's more than a sketch.
That's pen and ink drawing.
So anyway, that
You could walk it right up and work it.
that is,
Who do that anymore? Couple of...
No, with the machine, it's somebody that
They
actually.
made this quote.
They're beautiful.
I have two copies.
Oh, with your Kohinoors?
No, I'll take this one.
Pencil or pen and ink?
I'm sorry.
Pencil or
Oh,
pen?
pen, no, all pencil. So here's the cupola I was trying to describe.
Polyfunction.
It's absolutely all dented on 8 sides. This is the cupola over the,
Wait, you can hear us. We want to put it on the record, so if you want to.
so anyway, the height of the cupola,
Sure.
height of the cupola just is perfect for the length of the building, the breadth of the roof. Everything I draw is everything in the painting, if you will, or the piece of art, the piece of work, relates correctly to everything else that it's on the page with. And so proportionally, this is taking myself outside of the fact that I did this work is really pretty wonderful. And I wanted the buildings to be not just large buildings at all, but just to be, if you drove by and you could see them from a distance, or you came up Sunset, you would say, what on earth is that? You just gotta go see that. I mean, and you have horses out there, which is pretty good too, I think. So that was my mission. And if you can go to some of the detail pages, a little further in, I drew in a larger scale all of those details that are on the elevations. There are 6 pages of details like this.
Yeah.
I just do that. So it's now, in my view, just such a, I mean, look at the dormer, look at the side view of this dormer right here. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the page. Well, okay, there's one of the grand portico doorways. But it's just replete with crazy good stuff from this area.
Okay.
This is really, all of these pieces here on the first elevation here of the stable. There's just such a variety of interesting details from the period, done to the correct proportion. And everywhere you walk around this building or alongside it, or however you approach it, it's quite a point of interest.
Why don't we start with the board? Yes, Nick, go ahead.
Okay, well, one question, you said this was an 8-sided cupola,
Yes.
but on the drawings, you only see 3 from one side.
You're only seeing 3, but the 3 that you're seeing right here, there are
Yeah.
3 more at the back and 1 on each side that you aren't seeing unless we were to walk around, so
Okay.
if you had a plan view right
Hexagon.
now, you can see it that way.
Now, one of the reasons you're here, I guess, is because the height is too high.
Correct, it's
Well,
the cupola.
I don't have my notes in front of me.
Yes, mhm.
Can someone-
So I don't know, do you want,
Roof height
y-
and the cupola.
yes. Now, do you want Mr. Sutherland to answer this, or you want to go to the architect on that issue?
The architect will
Yeah,
testify as
okay.
technical.
But
Okay.
part of it is the artistic aspect of it.
Correct.
Right.
We should
That's correct.
discuss the impact of lowering this.
Right, if I could say, and that gets back to something being fortunately correct for, in the case of the cupola, for the building that it's on. It needs to be substantive, it needs to be substantial, it needs to be a pretty good statement on a wonderful structure.
But it is subjective to some extent, so, I mean, if it's...
That's
if
exactly
it's
right, and I
two foot
was
less,
very
maybe
cognizant of that.
it-
As I was drawing this, thinking about the distance in, 50 feet in from, the elevation plane, and, all of that.
Okay, well, that's an issue for us. I mean, how important is that? I don't know
You have.
how much
you have-
different we need it to be. I don't have that in front of me.
If I could interject, you have some really wonderful tall barns and cupolas already in Bedminster. They're from their original building dates of late 1700s, early 1800s, mid 1800s, and Victorian detail. They all break this rule of 35 feet, which I'm sure is good for a lot of reasons, but not so good for good architecture.
To answer your question there,
Yeah.
the cupola is permitted to be 50% of 35 feet or 5.25 feet. The proposed cupola is 9 feet 10 inches. So it's twice as high as the ordinance.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it is.
And,
Any more, Nick, or, no, okay, anybody else? Yes, go ahead.
So what, it seems to me what's driving the height is the size of this Olympic arena. So in order to accomplish these spans, you need, and to have a reasonable amount of pitch on this roof, and you've done something to minimize the pitch.
And King Construction has kept the most shallow pitch on this roof that one would ever do.
So these are engineered glue lambs so that they can be as minimal as they are in terms of pitch.
Elton will speak to more specifically.
I guess what I'm trying to get to is an effort has been made to keep the height low as possible by minimizing the pitch on these roofs.
Yes, I was going to say about other roofs you see, even in large houses, they're always extreme statement, hey, look at me roof. This is.
All right, so
none of
to
that.
follow, I don't want to lead the witness, so to speak, but if the only way to lower the roof would be make the structure smaller,
You'd be to make.
or that's a question for the architect perhaps, but
The architect will testify to that point, but it's a fair question.
Yeah. Well, I draw all the structural stuff in all of my houses, so I'm very.
But you've spent a good bit of time talking about the scale and the proportion of what you've done here. Is this in order to make it more authentic, Federalist style, or
Yes. Right.
Greek
Exactly.
revival, whatever the heck it is?
Yeah. Yeah, here.
In order to make it that, more consistently that style, are you following some kind of pattern books? You mentioned that it's the correct proportions.
I'm
By whose
following-
standard?
I'm following 50 years of my life living in this architecture, researching it, building it, loving it. All the books I read and have, the museum, since I was 5 years old, my folks took me to every 18th century place in New England. I was always waking up on my dad's shoulder in an antique shop somewhere.
Well, the only thing that's not consistent with this, style are the glue lamps.
I'm sorry,
Or the glue lamps?
well, they're inside.
Okay.
So, I mean, everything inside it is what it should be for horses to be there and be comfortable and taken care of properly. I'm just trying to, what I'm trying to do is bring this beautiful thing, if nothing ever went in it, it'd be really wonderful. Just to, let's go look at that building, be like, I think it would be like that. I'm excited to see it. Be right down-
And we couldn't tell. And your role here is to consult to the architect on these details and
Well,
ultimately you'll be fabricating some of
From
these
this point
details?
forward, you mean? From this point forward in the building of it?
How we got to this point, to begin with, and then going forward, it sounds like you're going to fabricate these details as well.
They are supposed to, everything you see should be fabricated to the details I've drawn here. I invite you to spend some time really looking at, because everything matters in the architecture of any good house. I'm obsessed with, to the extent my client will allow all this behavior, everything having the correct proportion everywhere on the building as I've drawn it. With all due respect for CAD drawing, you just can't do certain lines and serpentine shapes, and it's a whole different thing. So, we build all of this architectural millwork. Our company may not be building it, but we found a really great place in the Midwest that will do everything I've drawn. They signed an oath exactly to the specifications of what I've drawn. I've seen their work, and it's astounding.
Okay. Ann?
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, just so I'm clear on your role, you obviously had input on the details and the cupola, and the applicant wanted an Olympic size ring. Did you have input into the dimensions of the building?
No.
So that's all the architect.
Yeah, that would not be, I am not knowledgeable about sables and all the other things that I don't ride horses. I love looking at.
Okay.
So we'll get that from the architect
Well,
directly.
I'll remind you, Paul's, the owner's testimony is, the barn is the size it is because it has to be consistent with Olympic standards.
Okay.
The boundaries, this is the inside of the arena, is what it has to be.
I was just wondering if part of the design changed the parameters of the building.
No, to make it bigger, you mean?
Or
Yeah,
smaller,
no,
right?
The only thing I did is enlarge some doors, here on the gable end of the arena at the bottom, and then that fan-light, that curved transom window above. I did things like that, right?
So design features as opposed to.
I did alter this pitch just a little bit, but that didn't make. Yeah, because that was, there's no way this will look bad. Done correctly, done to these specifications and details and proportions. I think anyone seeing this, when it's fully appointed, the features it's going to be great. It's not, I hate stuff that's too large for the site that it's on, and I hate everything really. On my letterhead, we have Sunderland Period Homes building a traditional New England. That's all we're about. And so many builders know nothing about design at all, of course. They're just there to build, and they come to the most beautiful landscapes, and they build everything inappropriate for money. This is nothing like this is just this is architecture. This will be, I think a wonderful, interesting contribution to the entire town.
Thank you.
Great
Thank
to
you.
this land.
I got it. I think we all did. Paul, anything toward the witness?
Add to that.
You, and Frank, anything more?
We're not blessed here.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
I'll open it to public. The public have anything for this witness? Seeing none, next witness, please.
Thank you very much.
Okay, my pleasure. Thank you.
Elvin Engel is going to come up next. Elvin, you want to come up?
Whoops, whoops.
Elvin, welcome. Why don't you, for the record, provide your name, your address, and your qualifications.
I'm Elvin Engel. I'm a registered architect in the state of New Jersey, along with some other states. Our firm is located in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I founded the firm in 1990. I'm the principal of the firm. Right after we started doing a lot of equestrian buildings, and for the last 27 years, we've done a lot of equestrian buildings.
Have you testified before boards of adjustment and planning boards in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I have.
Okay. May I offer his qualifications?
Yeah, your license is current, Mr. Engel?
Yes,
Correct?
it is.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. So, what do you think of Edward's work?
Beautiful.
Yeah?
And you can even feel the excitement.
Okay. So tell us your how you got into the project and
We get into the project, we do a lot of equestrian buildings in conjunction with King Construction, who's the builder on the project. We were given the design that Edward had done, and so after we got the design concept, then we took it from there. And our firm did all the structural engineering. We did all the details for construction and also for the permitting process. So we basically took it from the design concept and took it to working drawings and through the engineering.
okay. So these plans are all part of the submission, correct?
Yes, they
You
are.
want to just run through it very quickly so we can get a sense of what the building is going to look like and the materials and the structure?
Okay. Yeah, the building is we'll start with the arena. It's 112 foot wide, 208 foot long, so it's about 23,296 square feet. It has 8 stalls, or 10 stalls, I'm sorry. It has 10 stalls, along with some wash stalls, groom stalls, tack room, and the supporting structures that go with that. The arena is beautiful inside. You don't see many arenas like that. You do see some, but they have the glue lamp beams coming up that you see sometimes in churches. But we've done a few arenas like this. They're spaced 16 foot on center, and they're tapered when you go up the outside wall. On the inside, they get a little wider, and then it gets to where we call the haunch, and you'll hear me talk about the haunch a little later, and that's kind of around it. It's on a radius, and then when it goes up the roof, then it kind of gets a little bit narrower as it goes up the roof, up to the peak. And those are just like what I would compare to pre-engineered wood trusses. They're actually pre-engineered by the people that manufacture them, and then we get shop drawings from the manufacturers to approve. But they're beautiful, and they're laminated. I'm sure you've seen them. They're kind of laminated. They have laminated pieces of wood in them. They're all glued together, and then on top of that, then there's 2x8 wood, a 2-inch thick, 8-inch wide, tongue and groove decking that's on top of that. And from the bottom, that's what you'll see from inside the arena. You'll see these glue lamp beams coming up, and you'll see the pine boards going from one arena to the next. But then on top of that, then there's plywood and the wood shingles and things like that. But from inside, you're going to see the beautiful ceiling up there.
Edward testified that the pitch on the roof at 4.5 is the minimum pitch that you can use in order to sustain the wooden shingles that you've specified. Is that correct?
On roofs, we use a lot of wood shingles. On roofs where we use wood shingles, we try to get close 6-12 pitch. We've gone down to 5-12 already. This one is about 4.5, and really, that's really the bare minimum that you should go with wood shingles. The flatter you go, if you're going flatter than that, you could eventually start having some issues with that. But that's about as low as we've ever gone with wood shingles. Now, if you use, there's other roof materials you can go with a flatter roof, but with wood shingles, that's really about as low as you should go.
Ms. Patras asked a question to Edward that, is it true that using the 4.5 pitch, given the constraints of the outside walls of the building, is the the peak of the roof as low as it can possibly be?
Yeah, it is. And another thing that plays into that, the inside at the haunch has to be high enough for safety of the riders in the arena. So at the haunch there, we're about 14 foot tall, we're about 14 foot high for clearance for the riders on the horses. So a lot of times, the structure of the arena, that's the first thing we look at is how high do we have to be for safety, if the horse, or whatever they do with the horse. So that's what sort of established the eave height of the roof. That basically that 14 foot high, over the edge, about as far close to the edge as what the rider would be. And then from there, then we went up.
Okay. There's a note on your plan that shows 35 feet to the peak. That's not correct, right?
There is an error. There's a typo error. I think it's sheet 2.01, where it has the top of the peak. Let me go to that page here. Yeah, it's peak to be under 35 foot from grade. That was a note that was supposed to be taken off and didn't get taken off. So to regard that, that is an error.
Okay, so because that's not possible, given the size of the building and the pitch of the roof.
It is not, no.
So what is, in fact, the height of the ridge?
The height of the ridge from the grade. Now, there's a dimension on the drawings from the floor slab up, but the grade is a little lower. So from the grade is about 40 foot 3 inches. So it's 40.25 feet from the grade to the peak.
And what about from the floor to the peak?
From the floor to the peak is 39, I think it's 39.2, if I recall.
39.6.
39.6, yeah,
Okay,
from the floor, right.
good. And then the total height, including the cupola?
Well, the cupola, it sounds like it's still being tweaked.
Well, let's talk about the cupola as it's designed.
Okay, as it's shown on here, the cupola is another 10 foot from the top of the peak of the building to the top of the cupola. And when you say top of the cupola, it's kind of a dome shape. Now, that does not include, usually, and that'll happen here. You see there's an emblem put on top of the cupola that has a horse.
Like a weather vane?
Like a weather vane, yeah. So it does not include that. I want to make it clear that it does not include the weather vane. So, and the weather vane could be anywhere from 3 to 4 feet. Sometimes they're pretty good size. But top, the 10 feet that's shown on the drawings here is from the peak of the arena to the top of the dome of the cupola. Okay. Now, I know there was some more work being done and tweaking that, so we'll let Edwards.
Well, I hate to be the engineer in the room all the time. We need to know precisely how tall the building is and precisely how tall it is to the top of whatever weather vane or emblem or whatever it is up there, because this board is going to grant a variance. It can't be, well, it's 10 feet, although the plan says 9 feet 10 inches. It's going to be something we're not sure what it is. We need that, the board needs that information to grant the approval.
Okay. Let's establish, Edward, I need your drawing.
Can you scale that?
I can.
Yeah, it's taller than 9.
Okay, what scale you have here? 1/8 inch.
Yeah, 8 inches.
Okay.
The weather on there was just, it was a nice decoration.
And to be clear, my comment has nothing to do with make it smaller.
No.
What do you need? And so this board can grant it.
Okay. Just so we can establish a height and then we can stay within that.
Right.
I'm going to suggest we go 14 foot from the top of the peak to the top of the dome.
The top of the dome?
The dome. And I'm going to suggest another 4 feet in case the weather vane with the horse gets a little bit, because there's all kind of different sizes of weather vanes. So I'm going to suggest we go to another 4 feet for the weather vane.
So total of 18.
So that gives us a total of 18 feet from the peak of the roof to the very top of the weather vane.
So now we're talking 53 feet, is that correct?
So that's
53?
18 feet on top of a building that's 39 feet. So it's
39
almost
feet.
50%
It doesn't sound.
of the height of the building.
From the floor.
No, but yeah, you're right. Now, let me explain something. We've done a lot of these. It's like Edward had mentioned earlier, a cupola that's on the roof, especially a big building like that, if it isn't big enough, it looks odd. Now, I go by so many buildings. Some are churches, some are horse barns, or whatever they are. And since we do a lot of horse barns, we deal with cupolas a lot. And it is sort of a sensitive thing that you want to try to get right. So many times I'll go by a building and it's frustrating that cupola is just way too small. And to try to put that in perspective, when you're on the ground and you're looking at the cupola, and the arena is 112 foot wide, your back, if you're even up against the wall, you're like 56 feet back from the arena, and you're looking up, so that's even more distance. Just to give some perspective on that, we did a very large arena in Cecil County, Maryland, back about 15 years ago. That cupola came in on a truck, and it was 12 foot wide. And the lady, the owner, was standing there, and I wasn't there. I was in my office, and I got a phone call from her. She was very emotional. She said, "Oh, that cupola is just way too big." She said, "It's not going to look right. It's way too big." I said, "Jane," I said, "just give them time. They're going to set that." So they set it with a crane. They lifted it off the truck, and they put it up on the way up on the top of the arena. I went down there that afternoon. She said, "It's beautiful." She said it was so big here, but she said when it went up on the crane, it kept looking smaller and smaller and smaller as it went. So what I'm saying is, what seems big, you're standing so far away, and in proportion to the structure, it has to be big to look right. So yeah, I know what you're saying. We're way above the height, but if it isn't big enough, it just won't look right.
So in your opinion, your professional opinion as an architect, is that the right height, the right mass, the right proportion for that cupola on that building?
It is. I don't think it should be any smaller. If it was any smaller, so many people say, why didn't you put a bigger cupola up there?
Okay.
Paul, you in your review report have a total of total height of 9.10 feet.
9 feet 10 inches.
9 feet 10 inches. If we're adding a 4-foot weather vane, where are we getting 18 feet?
Well, he's saying it's not 9 feet 10 inches. He's saying it's 14 feet.
Okay, so it's 14 feet.
14 plus.
Is that-
Plus 4 feet for the length of the proposed weather.
Is that 14 feet from the top of the roof line or from where the cupola's edges hit the roof?
No, it's from the very peak of the roof line.
From the ridge.
From the
Yeah,
ridge?
from the ridge. So what you're saying is it'll be a little bit more than that because it comes down the sides of the roof a little bit.
Because there seems
The
to be
actual
some
soffit.
differential on some of these plans. Some call it an 8-foot cupola and some it's closer to 10. I assume that's the variation?
Well, there's two cupolas on the plan.
Yeah, they're all-
Right, but the cupola on the main
On the
arena,
fall floor.
on drawing 2.02, there's a note that says it's an 8-foot octagonal louvered cupola with a copper bell roof, the middle drawing all the way to the left.
And
And on-
that may refer to the diameter of it.
Okay. Because I was going to say on 3.01, the two measurements in the arena put it just under 10 feet.
Yeah, a lot of times when you refer to a cupola, and if you say it's an 8-foot cupola, a lot of times you're talking about the width of it.
You're saying that you're recommending wood shingles here. You want to explain why you're recommending that instead of another type of material for the roof?
Well, I think the whole intent here was to match the house,
Mm-hmm,
and that's pretty much the reason for going that way.
okay. Mhm. All right. Any other questions from the board?
So with the low pitch, you get these ice dams, is that, in the winter, is that a big issue?
Ice dams, you say?
Yeah.
Well, wood shingles, since they're a little thicker than other shingles,
Yeah.
okay, if you're not steep enough, the water can come down the wood shingles and follow the edge of the thickness. And if it's not steep enough, and if you're getting a wind, it'll drive that water right back up there.
So it soaks into the wood.
Pardon?
It soaks into the wood.
Yeah, it'll drive it
From the edge.
up between them because wood warps a little bit.
Yeah.
So at different places, there can be a little space between where it overlaps. And so if water comes down there, you get a driving wind, it can take water right up into those openings, and I've seen that.
And then in the winter, it could freeze also.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that could happen to this structure.
If we would go any lower with the pitch, then I'd be very concerned about
But
it.
even at this pitch, it could happen.
I don't think it will at 4.5. I don't think it will at 4.5. But if we would get down, say, to about 3, that would make me very nervous, and I would never recommend doing it.
But I mean, do we have a 4.5 structure somewhere in your experience that's been there for 10 years?
With a wood shingle roof?
Hmm?
With a wood shingle roof?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There may be, like on some porch roofs on
Yeah.
houses, that would be 4 to 4.5. But,
And they do, I'm just asking, are there cases that exist that work okay at this pitch?
yeah, there are. There
Oh.
work at this pitch.
There are.
There are. Yeah.
Would it be fair to say to Mr. Streckhoff that there's not going to be a whole lot of roofs consistent with what he's just asked? Because 4.5 is a low pitch already. Most pitches are higher than 4.5.
Right.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'd say, like, if you look at a lot of the old houses that have wood shakes on, a lot of them might be up around 8-12 pitch. But
No, I understand it could be higher. I'm just wondering if at this pitch, this will survive for, a number of years without damage. That's all I'm asking. And do we have examples where that's happened, that survived?
Yeah, there are, whether there's any arenas with wood shakes at that pitch, I'm not sure if there is, but I know there's other smaller buildings that are about that slope that are going by.
Well, that, I think, is a kind of proof of that it could work, I think.
Yeah, I'm convinced it would. If not, I would have sealed the drawings with it on the tab.
Paul, do you have anything? You're still working on this
Comment is that,
this cupola.
the board is looking at this drawing, and based on the testimony, that it's disproportionate. What's shown, if you look at the cupola on the architectural drawing, it to me looks like it's 25% of the height of the building, just visually, but it's going to be 50% of the height of the building. Not to say that that's wrong, it's just, you're not going to see this when you go out, that the cupola will be larger. It may look appropriately sized, but proportionally, it's different than it shows on this plan.
So it's hard to visualize the
Right.
the scope of it.
And I'm not an architect, I can't tell you if it's going to look good or bad.
Just to clarify, I think what he did was he scaled Mr. Sunderland's drawing. So what you see in Mr. Sunderland's drawing, I think, is consistent with the measurements that he just provided.
That is true. The other thing, if I can comment on what you had just mentioned, it's a little misleading when you look at a two-dimensional drawing, because what you see for the cupola looks flat, looks on the same plane as the building
No,
itself.
I understand that, it's much further back.
Exactly.
I get that.
Yeah.
But it's, and I understand distance and perspective and that whole thing. But I'm just saying that if this were drawn, to be consistent with Mr. Sunderland's plans, it'd probably be twice as high as it should, as it looks here on your,
Not quite twice, but yeah.
well, it's 10 inches versus 18, so it's pretty close.
The top of the eaves are 18 feet on this drawing. And so 18 feet, could scale, the height to the top of the eave and put that on top of the drawing.
It's actually only 14 feet.
Yeah, the other 14 feet plus the other 4 feet.
Plus 4 feet for the
Yeah.
Weather vane,
Weather
for the
vane.
weather vane.
So the structure itself is 14 feet above the peak, above the 39 4 feet.
And I'm only making a deal out of you, because when this application comes in for a building permit,
Right.
if it doesn't match what this board says, it doesn't get approved.
And when it comes in for the building permit, the decorative weather vane is going to be included in the...
It all has to be fully detailed to be consistent. So these plans will not be the ones submitted for building.
I'm looking at Mr. Sunderland's drawing, and I'm scaling it to the top of the cupola, not the top of the weather vane. And I don't have 12 feet. I got less than 1.5 inches from the ridge to the top of the dome. And the other question that I have is, if the eave is at 18 and change, is it?
Yeah, 18.2.
And the ridge is at 39 and change,
Right.
I get 21 and 66. My old foil system, you know? I get less than 4 over 12. Am I taking that measurement wrong? I'm measuring from the eaves to the ridge?
Why don't we do this? Frank, do you have anything else that you want to talk about to this witness? No. Okay. Why don't we take a break and you work out some numbers and come back to us, okay, in a few minutes. Let's take 5, okay? Okay, so where are we here? Let's,
Okay, there's a couple of things that we want to talk about. There was an issue with respect to the portion and scaling of the drawings. Where we show a 21-foot height from the sill plate to the ridge. Why don't you just go through those numbers, because there's some question about whether it should be 21 or 25.
Okay. The width of the arena is 112 feet, okay? So if you divide that by 2, I'm just going to run you through these calculations. So we have 112 divided by 2
It's 56 and not 66 is where I came up with the wrong number.
Right.
Okay, all right, yeah,
That's
56
right.
feet.
So it is.
Okay.
So for every foot, the roof goes up 4.5 inches. So if we take this 56 times 4.5, that's 252 inches. So we divide that by 12, it's 21 feet.
okay?
And my problem was I did the division without that.
Okay.
Well, you're an engineer, right? Oh, Miss Crabtree.
I'd say, come on, algebra.
Okay. Okay, so that makes the height of the building?
Consistent with what we have on the plan.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Now let's.
Now the
talk about
cupola.
Cupola. I would like, even though the drawings, the cupola isn't shown quite that high, I would like to just have a little bit of latitude to adjust that cupola. What happens, and I know Edward...
How much latitude? Sorry, you just gotta tell us where you want the top at.
We'd like it 14 foot from the peak up to the dome.
Okay,
And I know that sounds like a lot, but like the reason I mentioned earlier, when that thing is off in a distance, it looks smaller than what it really is. And then,
Mr. Engel, can you mark up your plan sheet there and give us an idea of what you're talking about
So
visually?
literally draw it with a.
Just draw it in physically right now with black ink.
We're gonna offer that as.
scale or something.
Do it right on 2-1.
and then you're going to put on top of that the weather vane,
That is
The
correct.
4 feet.
and that's another 4 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A rough detail, nothing major here, but something showing the weather vane would be probably...
Okay, well, while the architect is doing that, maybe we could have the next witness, why don't he work on his plans, and we'll work on the witness, and
Work over the way?
we'll work on, yeah, right. All right?
All right, we're gonna have Paul Fox come up.
Okay.
Some engineering, there you go.
So my name is Paul Fox. I'm with Apgar Associates down in Far Hills. Testified before the board before.
Yes, you have.
Paul will recognize your qualifications, provided you can confirm that your licenses are current.
I can.
Thank you.
Well, sure.
This is a colorized version of sheet 2 of the plans. What this shows is the home and the associated driveway coming up from Holland Road. This was all approved last year and construction is well underway. And what we're here to talk about tonight is the proposed stable and riding arena, an access driveway that leads to it, and then 2 smaller barns that are necessary for feed storage as well as tractor storage. What we're showing here is a gently curving driveway that provides access for vehicles that may be bringing the horses or dropping off feed or hay, things like that.
This is a color rendering. I assume it was not part of your
That is correct.
variance plan. So we'll mark this as Exhibit A2 with today's plate.
Very good.
Today's date, please.
Right. Same, yeah, right.
Now, this shows that there will be wastewater management associated with the stable from bathrooms for the user of the stable. That wastewater transmitted to the previously approved septic system in the front of the house. The Board of Health has issued their approval for the proposed barn improvements. We also provide the 2 small barns over here. They have a separate access. There won't be any wastewater facilities in those 2 barns. As shown in the rest of the plan sets, we provide regular soil erosion sediment control features. The Soil Conservation District has issued their approval for this portion of the project, as well as the Somerset County Planning Board. As you can see, there's an existing stormwater control basin in the front for the home. We proposed the second one in the back for the existing, or for the proposed barn. Access, again, will be through the flagstaff here that is owned fee simple by Great Oak Farm LLC. As you can see, there's 2 existing homes to the south, along with an existing horse operation down here. And then to the north, there's an existing horse track on the adjacent property. With respect to Mr. Ferraro's comments, I've gone through those with Mr. Ferraro, and we've agreed to satisfy all his comments with respect to the stormwater and similar features.
Okay. One of the things I noticed that when I was there today, along the roadway, you cannot see up into that property at all. It is completely screened. You might want to talk about the terrain there a little.
That's right. Holland Road is quite low at this point, and as you can see, the topography rises and stays at that height all the way to the rear of the property. For a 41-acre property, it's a little bit of a convoluted shape in that it's fairly long, so in terms of having access to a facility in the back, you do need a longer driveway. One of the things that's interesting to note is that a lot of the lot coverage is from this driveway that actually serves other homes. And if you actually didn't consider that lot coverage from the driveway that serves other homes, this would be conforming for lot coverage. It would be less than 5% lot coverage.
Is the driveway solely on this property?
Yes.
It is.
It branches off.
It branches off, but it's solely on this property.
Entirely on our property.
So
right.
we have to
Even though
count
up
that.
to date, we don't use it at all.
So everything that we've done for the equine facilities and back, the idea has been to preserve all the existing trees around it. So our activities and the proposal and the grading is all focused on the existing pasture, just to create a level area for the proposed stable and arena, as well as creating level areas that are safe for the animals when they're outside in pasture. But otherwise, we're not going into any of the treat areas around the back of the property.
I bring that up because I think, isn't that one of the variances is lot coverage?
Yes,
And so I bring that up, that the roadway is considered part of that.
that's right.
And when you say removing the roadway
Well, if we-
brings it to conforming, you're talking about the existing roadway, not the entire thing to the barn?
That's right. If you look at this existing driveway, that's all on my client's property, which actually is presently serving just these two adjacent lots. If you took that coverage out of the equation, we're actually below 5% lot coverage with everything that's proposed.
Any other questions from the board? Paul?
Paul, is this do you anticipate any soil export on this job, or are you going to balance on this?
Balanced.
One comment that was not in my letter, but I kind of looked at it as I was focusing on the architectural plans tonight. Just coordinate with the architect that the gutters are sufficient for this broad of a roof, because the design requires that the water get to the dry well. And I want to make sure we have enough gutter area.
Sure.
And if the gutters can't, then it should be something, if the gutters overflow, to get the design from the base.
Understood.
Whether it's sweat or not. Doesn't matter.
And
Madam Chair, I have talked to them about the items in my letter on the stormwater report. There are, a fairly significant number of comments.
Yes.
But in my mind, they are achievable to address. One reason why the board has seen this type of letter, have seen it in the past with this level of detail, is that recently DEP has told us as municipal engineers that if a plan is approved that doesn't strictly comply with their requirements, the township violation of its stormwater permit, the township could get fined.
well, don't want that.
So I have no option but to start to look a little more closely.
Get a lot of detail, huh? Okay, but you feel that they can all be achieved?
I think it's achievable, yeah.
Okay,
And it could be, if the board were inclined to approve it, that could be a condition.
certainly. Frank, you're up. Anything? Nothing for this witness? Okay, good.
I'm saving all my time.
Uh-oh. All right, Mr. Fox, anything more? Is that?
That's it.
Okay. The public, any questions? Seeing none?
Thank you.
Oh, do you have a question? Okay. Oh, wait. We need to get your name. Excuse me.
Sir.
Excuse me.
They just need to know your name.
You need to talk into the microphone here. We need your name and your address, please.
My name is Manfred F. Dyke. I reside on 255 Holland Road,
Okay,
approximately for 50 years now.
good.
It's a building that's 40 acres, and we have seen all the water in the world coming our way. We are sometimes sort of building Noah's Ark every time it rains. Now, I totally welcome any more equestrian facilities here. I got 16 stalls myself. They're empty, and they stay empty. We're selling hay now. We're getting pretty old. But the question I have is, with the increased coverage now, and I have been assured that the water is coming exactly the same way it always does to Holland Road, that would be an enormous increase in water flow straight down my driveway. There's one.
You're on the opposite side of the street, I believe, is that right?
Well, yeah. Do you know where I reside? Okay, good. The problem I have is even larger because the road actually tilts towards my property instead of tilting the other way where there is a drain. For whatever reason, it always has been that way, at least for the last 50 years. If we're coming down Holland Road, it is tilted towards my driveway, not like this where there is a drain. Drain is bone dry, even when it rains. It goes all up my driveway. So my driveway has been preordained as the overflow from the Holland Road as it is produced from the upper properties. Now, I have been assured by, sorry, I didn't get your name, but I have been assured, Mr. Engineer, is that correct?
Yes, and what I would suggest is that if you have a question about what the requirements are for the stormwater, how to get it addressed, part of this application, Mr. Fox can probably give some pretty succinct testimony on what the standards
Yeah,
are.
I'm a great believer in legislation, except it doesn't work. So if you legislate that one out, what assurance do I have if there is another big rainstorm, and we do have these rainstorms every couple of years, that I'm not be totally underwater again?
Question for Mr. Fox.
I'm sorry?
That's a
Mr.
question-
Fox.
You got to ask him.
Mr. Fox, let's let Mr. Fox to answer this.
What do you have to say? Well, there's stormwater from the site in its existing condition. Some of it flows through this area down to a low point in Holland Road. Some of it flows down through here to a low point in the drain right above Mr. Rashad's driveway. Some of it in the rear actually goes toward the back.
Oh, no, that's different. So basically, this will not drain into Holland.
Well, the existing portion of the site, there's a high point right about here. So from this point of the site, it will continue to drain into Holland Road as it always has. This is existing pasture and will remain this pasture. For this portion of the site, that's going to drain to the rear going toward the east, not toward Holland Road. So that's correct.
But I don't know. Wait again. I don't know what this is to say.
Well, that's why we put, there's a
I don't
violation.
get it, that's okay with me. So, but yet, there is a certain portion of increased water flow into that direction. Now, you say that part here goes into a drain on Holland Road.
There's a drain underneath Holland Road right at the bottom of Mr. Rashad's driveway. Certainly, if there's an issue there, I can speak with
That
Mr.
drain
Rashad.
goes into that pond.
Correct.
Now, let me tell you, when that pond was originally right up to here, it is now totally silted over. It's going to, that pond is gone within a couple of years. It's totally silted over. Because of the water, which has actually been drained into that pond, it's only about a foot of water of clearance.
Sure, some of the washes.
Yeah, so this will, within a couple of years, that pond is gone. Now, that drain here drains right into that little overflow.
Right.
But, yes, so that's another fund of mine. So I'm getting the water, I'm getting the main this way, and from here over there.
Sure, I certainly as a downstream property owner.
But let me also explain.
Maybe this could be done, at a different time. We could do this at a different time, and you can work out the details with the engineer. I think this could be something that, we don't have to hear all this detail right at this point.
But also, please be reminded that the road actually tilts towards my property. So it builds a river on the left side of the road.
Right, I understand.
And then it goes quickly swaps over and drains down my driveway. So the driveway becomes a major flood. And then that driveway goes right into here and it floods.
Well, Paul, I think we can take these concerns into consideration.
I understand, and that's part of what my comments were in my stormwater
Right.
report, was to make sure that it didn't have the adverse impact.
Right. I mean, that's what the whole stormwater management is about. So we will take those, concerns into consideration. Well, I'm sure the engineers can work it out. I'm not an engineer, but I'm sure they can.
Is there a solution to it? There is a solution to increases in runoff, and that's the stormwater management design. We cannot require this
That is going to
applicant,
be done by April.
we cannot require this applicant to stop water from going where it is now. We can't do that.
So after it was.
All we can require is that it not be any worse.
That's what I was going to say.
So if I show pictures, and I do have these, for what happened the last couple of years, and I can show that it actually has increased, gotten worse.
Then,
Then what?
then if, I'm not your attorney, You'd have to talk to your attorney. What's your options?
You understand, I have a major problem.
Paul, why don't you just make your testimony that that what's happening here with this development is not going to adversely affect Mr. Dyke's property? Is that consistent with your understanding?
This is consistent with our design.
It will not increase.
It will not increase stormwater damage to Mr. Dyke's property or increase flows.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
By the way,
Thank you for your,
you call or not, I have given the rights for development to the Bedminster Township.
Okay.
You know that.
I personally don't, but I'm sure that if you did, well,
There is more houses on our properties.
okay,
You'd rather have horses.
okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm, okay.
Having said that, I totally support what you're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Dyke.
Okay, where do we want to go from here?
Paul Elvin,
Okay,
and he's going to be able to talk a little bit more about the cupola.
okay, good.
Mr. Engel.
Okay, I kind of sketched this on here. What it would look like if you look strictly at two-dimensional. I
Mm-hmm,
know it's kind of hard to visualize that because as it goes away, it's going to get back and look kind of like it does on the drawing.
Well, let's just put it this way.
Why don't you mark it, council, as Exhibit A3,
Yeah.
okay, today's date.
you have your
Hold
dimensions.
it up.
Hold on, let me mark it.
What are we calling?
Exhibit A3. This is a handwritten
Bullet design,
For 2.01.
angle plan sheet. Council, you'll have to give me the plan sheet.
Okay. Sheet number 3.01.
301.
Okay. So now, just so we're clear, what you've done here is you superimposed on top of the existing plan that they all have, a representation of the cupola that's consistent with the scale of Mr. Sunderland's drawing, and you measured it all out. Good.
Frank and I will take a quick look at it, but then you can distribute it to the board.
What I did is,
Oh,
brought it up, the top of it is 14 foot with cable roots.
Okay. Why don't you take it over to the board and show it to them, and then I'm going to ask you to hold it up and say what you're just saying now, so we can pick it up on the record, okay?
I just drew over top of this. This was the other one there. And when you go wider to keep the proportion, or when you go higher to keep the proportions the same, I went a little wider as well. And I had 14 foot on top of the dome, the peak of the roof. And that gives a distance of 52 foot, 10 7/8 of the floor slab up there. And then there's another, the grade is about 12 inches lower than that. So from the grade to the top of the dome of the cupola would be 53 foot, 10 7/8.
You're going to have to repeat this unless you can do it from a stationary position wherever you
yeah.
remember.
If you could take the mic and just, then you wouldn't have to repeat it over and over and over again.
Something they can clip it on your board. We have like an easel or something.
We used to, I don't know where it is right now. Yeah, right, right. Take the mic if you would, right there, and that way you can just say it once, and you'll have it on the record, and, yes, there you go.
Okay, I'd superimpose the bigger cupola over top of the other one. So once we go higher, if you go higher, you also want to go wider to keep all the proportions the same. So I show it as to the top of the dome on the cupola, 14 foot of the peak of the arena. And in doing that, then we have 52 foot, 10 7/8 inches from the floor to the top of the dome. And the grade around the building is about a foot lower than the floor slab. So add another 12 inches to that. So from the grade to the top of the dome, we'd have with 53 foot and 7/8. to the top of the dome. I ran out of paper. I was going to put the 4-foot weather vane on that. I ran out.
So you got 57 feet.
57 feet.
Sure it's not what? I said, you're sure it's not 6/8?
No, it's not 6/8.
Okay, so you got
Now, in-
57
With the weather.
with the weather vane.
That is correct.
It'd be 57 feet from the grade to the top of the weather vane. That is correct.
10 and 7/8.
No, 56, 10 and 7/8.
57 is rounded up.
Peter, can you just, I'm not trying to make.
Weather vane's only 3 feet?
You are right.
Show that.
It was 53, 10 and 7/8 to the grade, so another 4 feet is 57, 10 and 7/8. You are correct.
Yeah, 57, 10 and 7/8 is the grade.
You are correct. Yep.
Call it 58.
So 58 feet. Yeah.
58, we're up to 58.
And the height to the ridge of the building from the grade level, because that's, those are the two numbers that are important from a zoning perspective.
From the grade
To the ridge.
to the ridge,
And the grade to the top of the, everything.
okay, from the grade to the top of the ridge would be 39 foot, 10 7/8. So roughly 8 feet.
Okay.
Okay? Another, so you take that 40 feet, put another 18 foot
58.
to the very top of the weather vane, you're 58 feet.
Okay.
When we're
Okay.
writing up this resolution, does it make sense for us to say no more than 40, no more than 54, no more than 58?
It makes an awful lot of sense.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, I would say so.
But just for the board to be aware, 35 foot is the permitted height. So they
Right.
provide variance for roughly 5 feet on the building.
Right,
The cupola permitted is 5.25, and they're 8 feet.
right.
The total height of 7 feet.
With essentially two C variances, because we're talking about an accessory structure, this arena structure not being a principal structure, but there are two height variances associated.
Correct.
The height of the arena, and then the height
Right.
of the cupola plus its weather vane.
Correct. Right, okay.
Okay.
Okay, and the witness, are we,
We do have one witness.
okay.
Okay, we have Peter Stack. Peter, for the record, you want to introduce yourself and explain your qualifications?
Yes, my name is Peter, S-T-E-C-K, office and home in Maplewood, New Jersey. I'm a licensed planner, license number 1776, which I received in 1976, and that license, although old, is still in effect. And I've testified before approximately 150 municipalities and in Superior Court and in tax court, and accepted as an expert witness as a planner.
I'm well familiar with your qualifications, Peter. I believe the board is too, so we accept your qualifications. You may proceed.
I have one exhibit that might be helpful.
Okay,
I'm going to mark this as Exhibit A4 with today's date. We're going to call this planning exhibit prepared by Peter Stack, CP.
I'll briefly just identify what it is. It consists of, so when did we mark this?
Yeah, Exhibit A4.
A4.
This was prepared by me today. It consists of 5 pages, double-sided, so 3 visible pages. First one is excerpts from your zoning master plan. The second page is a Google Earth photograph where I've outlined the subject property and identified the approximate location of the new riding arena and the outbuildings. Below that, I've identified location of certain variances. On the third page, you'll see a view from the street. So one of the observations of the chairwoman is that you can, because the property rises up, you can barely see the top of the house. And of course, you won't be able to see the stable. Photograph number 7 is the outbuilding, which is an existing one, 4.2 feet from the side property line. 8, the view of the house from the backside. 9, the pasture and the approximate location of the riding arena. On the next page, P4, on the upper right-hand corner, there are 3 photographs. I'm standing at the southerly edge of the proposed arena and taking pictures in 3 directions. So upper is the north, toward the Brady property. 11 is to the east, to the wooded, very rear end of our property. And number 12 is looking to the Spilatro property, which is the one that accesses the same driveway as we're going to access to the barn. P5 is additional photographs that show the character of the driveway access to the arena and stable. It's a gravel road, as the board is familiar with it. So let me just lay quickly a foundation. This is a big property, 40.9 acres, 4 times the minimum lot size, irregular in shape, and very deep, 2,000 feet, more than that to the very rear. Farmland assessed, 2 access points, as you are aware. We have a switchback driveway to the house, and then a flatter driveway that is more the utilitarian driveway servicing the arena and horse barn. The home is already under construction and a result of a prior approval, and there, as indicated earlier, there are bridle paths that cross the property, and the applicant is going to retain them. This is an application to provide accessory buildings, equestrian in nature, to the principal use being the single-family dwelling. As indicated, the dimensions of it are specialized because of the horse training. The applicant would like to accommodate Olympic dimensions. That sets the footprint of the riding area, and as you know, that just because of geometry and structures and rainfall and the architecture, the applicant has tried to minimize the height by having a relatively gentle slope of the roof. This has an architectural style that's intended to match the house. And I guess from the earlier testimony, I would describe it as obsessively wonderful. Not a technical term. The surrounding area is rural in nature, and there's a prevalence of equestrian activities. The property that shares our utilitarian driveway also has equestrian facilities on it. Your master plan was last amended in 2005. There were later amendments for housing and sidewalks. They don't affect the policies here. Recommended to be an R10 rural residential designation to preserve the countryside appearance of the area. Your master plan talks a great deal about the agricultural history of Bedminster, and it also observes that while originally there were a lot more cash crops being done, the answer is the equestrian activity has started to surface. It's increasing in activity as opposed to the cash crops. And so even the master plan talked about specialized agricultural zoning, and they suggested, although not implemented, a 20-acre minimum lot size. So the municipality very much wants to treasure agriculture, and in the eyes of the master plan, it has, to a certain degree, shifted from traditional cash crops to more equestrian activities. Not to be marked as an exhibit, but behind you is the seal of the municipality, and there happens to be a big horse head on it. don't have to mark that as exhibit. This is in an R10 rural residential zone. It specifically accommodates barns as an accessory use. So we have a large barn riding stable. We have two smaller barns, one for tractors associated with the pasture land, and one for the hay barn. There's a long tradition of hay being stored that burns, so it's important to keep the hay barn away from the other structures for public safety reasons. So we need a number of dimensional variances, and they're outlined on the bottom of the second page, my exhibit, and they're numbered 1 through 5. The first one is an existing frame barn, the red building, that is 4.2 feet from the side property line, been there a long time. We would rather not change it. The second one is the distance between the proposed garage for tractors and the hay barn. Accessory structure is supposed to be 50 feet apart. Ours is 21.21. We could attach them and solve the separation issue and make them one structure, but the answer is, for fire protection reasons, we'd rather have them separate buildings. They're close together, so obviously the tractors don't have to travel that far to pick up hay from the hay barn. We have an issue of building height that has already been talked about pretty extensively. It has to do with the specialized nature of the footprint of the riding area and the need to have a proper aesthetics as well as a proper slope of the roof in order to have a long-lasting roof that protects from water. There's also an issue of lot coverage. We have 5.98%, which exceeds the 5%, and as indicated by Mr. Fox earlier, that 1% difference is essentially our second driveway. And in one sense, we're being penalized by having a driveway for another user that's to the south. If that driveway were, let's say, removed and we accessed the barn through the house and brought the barn closer to the house, we would be under the 5%. So now I'd just like to quickly go through the conclusions. I think there is a C1 hardship variance justification that has to do with the existing red barn that's 4.2 feet from the property line. Existing condition, been there a long time. It's a one-story small barn. There really is no detriment to removing it. It's a detriment to its current condition. It would be a hardship to remove it as an existing condition. The rest of the variances, in my opinion, are C2 variances where the public benefits substantially outweigh the detriments. Your master plan puts a high priority on agricultural activities. The master plan recognizes that these have shifted from cash crops to equestrian activities. There are a number of purposes to the municipal land use law that are advanced, and I have too many of them here, but they're all legitimate. And I'm going to say by letters A, B, Z, E, G, I, and M. And just short circuit this, A is the most appropriate use of land, in this case an agricultural use. 2 is to secure safety. We want to keep the hay away from other structures because of the potential of fire. C, in terms of light, air, and open space, this lot is 4 times the minimum lot size. It certainly encourages the appropriate population density. This is a rural density, and again, we have 1 dwelling unit on 40 acres. G talks about providing sufficient space in an appropriate location, and I talks about promoting a desirable visual environment. And first of all, there is obviously a lot of attention being paid to the aesthetics, have the barn match the house and have the elements of the barn being proportional. So a number of purposes, the municipal land use law that are advanced. The final part of the proof is, can we meet the negative criteria? Can this be approved without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantial impairment of the zone plan and zoning ordinance? In my opinion, the answer is yes for the following reasons. the real impact on this potentially could be visual, but the answer is you're not going to be able to see the barn. The issue is really from the neighbors, and the short part of the barn is the one that faces the north and the south. So that's what the neighbors are going to see. There are tree lines that modify the view of this from the adjacent properties. There is a design which is complementary to the building. There is a separation of structures that is obviously for safety purposes, but you can still get, a vehicle around the two smaller barns. Stormwater runoff is going to be technically handled with some adjustments and negotiation with the engineers. There's evidence on the record that the rate of stormwater runoff will not increase after construction. And finally, I'd like to repeat that the access drive, which is really the item that gives us the excess coverage, that's the 1%. If we did not have that second utility drive, we would be conforming to the 5%. But the answer is that's a good place for it. That drive already accommodates equestrian trucks, equipment, deliveries. We're sharing it with the neighbor, which both parties have a right to it. And that is, I think, the proper way to do this. It does increase the amount of impervious coverage, but again, in one sense, we're being penalized by letting an adjacent owner use part of our property. So I think the positive and negative criteria have been satisfied, and you have sufficient evidence to approve the application.
Okay, any questions from the board? Paul?
I'll leave this one to Frank.
You'll leave this to Frank, okay. Frank?
Despite the fact that Peter wasn't the best roommate I ever had, he wasn't the worst roommate by far. No, I really have to pretty much concur with Peter's testimony, and I think what the most compelling thing for you to think about is when you look at those numbers, you think of what context they're in. So if you're on a 1 acre lot or something small, and you want to talk about 50 feet, a very different situation than when you're at the top of a hill like this, back in the woods, away from other area of visual concern. I think that the most important thing that Peter said is that exactly what the master plan hopes will happen if there's change to the character of those lands, that they'll become more agricultural. And I think the fact that a clever, I guess you'd probably call Mr. Sunderland an exterior designer, right? Because he designed the exterior of this building in a way that I think, it's all subjective, but the one argument that I am very receptive to is that if you don't get the proportionality of these elements right, they look wimpy. Things just don't quite resonate. So I think that the effort that's been gone here to thematically match these buildings in a way that's going to make them, we're not really trying to make them look like they were here forever, but they're going to look like they belong. I think that's really a big part of what we're to try to figure out. So I can't see any reason why you would not be able to grant this.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Well, to public, anyone? Seeing no one?
Applicant rests.
Any further, you want to do any summary, or are you totally satisfied?
Nope, totally satisfied.
Good, thank
I
you.
have one question.
Yeah.
Curiosity more than
Sure.
anything else. Since you mentioned safety, is the ring sprinkled? Sprinkler? No.
No.
Okay.
It's mandatory, Paul.
Not
Yeah.
required.
No.
Not required. No.
Can I call you?
Yes, go ahead, Nick.
Could Paul or somebody give me some idea, why do we have this requirement of 50-foot separation? And why do we have these height requirements? How's the town suffer when we...
Yeah, the reason why there's the 50-foot separation distance in the ordinance, that came about probably 18 years ago. The idea was that if the accessory structure was of a certain size, they wanted to be far enough apart that you wouldn't have an issue with fire protection. Because if you get these buildings too close together, then there was a concern that if in this case, the hay barn caught on fire, it'd be close enough to the next one, that there would be a problem. So that's the genesis of the ordinance on the separation between structures. The testimony you've heard it, and that's a completely generic statement. It applies to whether the accessory structure is this outdoor riding arena or this hay barn that's 1,200 square feet. So that's part of the consideration. Obviously, if there were a large fire in a large building, it'd be much more difficult to manage. These small barns are a lot smaller. They don't have the same issues associated, and I think that the testimony was that they can still be adequately protected, even though they're not that 50 feet apart.
If the building's smaller, it's not so bad that they're closer.
Correct.
Makes
So
sense.
what about the height? Why do we have that?
Because that's the building height was prime had forever. I think the logic behind that is you don't necessarily want to make it taller because then every building gets taller. There are reasons why certain specific buildings with certain specific designs, which is basically the planning testimony, deserve to be higher. And I think rather than carte blanche, everybody gets that height, I think buildings like this are the kind that exactly should come to this board. You make the determination that it's justified to have that additional height. Because if we had a permitted building height of 50 feet, I think you would have a lot of things you don't like.
Right.
Yeah,
Be an interesting
exactly.
skyline.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Would be a skyline.
It's also important to note that agriculture gets a buy on certain things, like silos have no height limit. So there's a recognition that there's a character of agricultural buildings in the landscape that's going to be bigger than life. And what you just did tonight was make the findings that in this situation, it's appropriate to grant that relief. Wouldn't necessarily be in some other situation with different facts.
Yeah, the property is very large, and like I said, when I visited it today, the way the Landuse is the topography of it, it sits so far back that no one around them, even their neighbors or anything, sees it. So.
Although I'm not that taken with the argument that no one can see it.
No.
Because someday
Somebody might see it.
build something and then people will see it.
Well, the property is so large in comparison that I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, unless we change our zoning very drastically. I don't think that's happening. So, all right, we need to have a resolution so we can vote.
This is the board, someone can move to approve the variance application of Great Elm Farm. The approval would incorporate variance approvals as testified to by Mr. Staff. You're specifically talking about a side yard setback variance of 4.2 feet where 50 feet is required for the existing quote-unquote red barn on the property. Also be voting to approve a variance for the proposed distance between accessory structures, that being the hay barn and the proposed arena.
No, it's the hay barn in the garage.
Hay barn in the garage. They're going to be separated by about 21 feet where 50 feet is required. We have two height variances, but they're C variances with both variances. The height of the proposed arena roof is approximately 39.7 feet, and 35 feet is required. And then the height of the cupola that lies on top of that roof is approximately 18 feet, inclusive of a 4-foot or so weather vane, or about 5.25 feet otherwise required. Finally, we have a rather de minimis lot coverage variance, proposed lot coverage with all of this, with these new structures added to the lot is 5.98%, where 5% is the maximum that is required. We should mention that there could be certain conditions of any approval this board is willing to grant, specifically compliance with the board engineers reports and the board planners reports. And I'm going to mention that there was some discussion and testimony about drainage and gutter functionality and everything. I'm going to require that the applicant have its professionals work together with the board's engineer to ensure that that drainage, specifically the gutter drainage, functions properly and is in accordance with RSIS and applicable stormwater management regulations. I'm also going to suggest, based on the confusion about the height of the cupola, that a plan revision be made by the applicant's architect to reflect handwritten notations and his testimony. And that plan sheet be filed with the board's engineer for his review and approval. Any problems or discrepancies related to that plan sheet will be returned to the board for a final determination.
If I could make a suggestion on the building heights.
Yes.
Because we had some numbers, and I think Richard touched on it. I think if you're going to talk about it, you want, it was basically 40 feet, 54 feet to the top of the cupola, and 58 feet to the top of the weather vane.
Sounds right.
I don't want to
Yep.
talk about 10 and 7/8.
No, sounds right.
So you want to limit it?
You have clear from the architect that that's from the grade and not the floor.
Right, that's what I wanted to, is the figure that he quoted, the 39 and change to the ridge, that's actually from the floor.
So it's-
From the grade is 40 and a quarter, 40.25
1 foot higher.
Which is in Peter's report, right?
from the outside.
You have the right dimension?
Yes, that's correct. So just to clarify, he was giving the dimension from
Right.
the floor, the township code measures it from the outside.
From the ground,
And that's
front side of the building.
40.25 as required.
So the numbers the board would be talking about then would be 40.25, 54.25, 58, as measured by the ordinance.
Okay, do we want to put a limit on this so that,
That would be my suggestion.
I would say,
We can do it one of two ways. We can either say that the total height of everything, inclusive of the cupola and its topping of the weather vane, shall not exceed 58.25 feet, or you can break it down incrementally.
I think you should break it down incrementally because.
well, because of the two
Right,
variances.
you want to set the height of the peak as well as the
The height of the
cupola.
arena roof shall not exceed 41 feet. The height of the cupola shall not exceed 14 feet, 14.25 feet. And the height of the weather vane shall not exceed 4 feet.
Okay, right? Yes?
Yeah.
That gets you
There you
there.
go.
I mean,
It gets you there.
Okay.
do we want to give them any wiggle room? Is
That
there,
has the wiggle room in it.
It's built in.
you got enough wiggle room
We're
there?
allowing for
Okay.
a slight overage
Okay.
in each
Okay.
category.
Thickness of the materials.
Again, I'm going to require that the plan revision to whatever sheet Mr. Engel was testifying about that he marked up be filed with Mr. Ferraro, and as long as he's satisfied with it, so be it. But if there's any problem and discrepancies that can't be resolved by the applicant, Mr. Ferraro, then the matter will be returned to the board for final determination.
Understood. Okay, we need a motion for the resolution.
Motion to approve the resolution as drafted.
Seconded.
Mr. Strackle?
Approved.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Zeppelin?
Aye.
Mr. Travelini?
Aye.
Ms. Pappas?
Aye.
And Ms. Hurtaugh?
Aye.
Congratulations.
Congratulations and
Enjoy
good
it.
luck. It'll be-
Enjoy it. It looks
Yeah.
awesome.
Yes.
Probably never will.
Okay, we just have a couple of things. We just have a couple things.
They're always exhibits, yeah.
Yeah.
Paul, don't leave with that exhibit.
Oh, you're ready to start.
Red-handed. Red-handed.
Okay, we just have a couple things to finish up here. Paul, we have these two pending applications, and we talked about Lamington Road. They're set for August 10th.
Correct.
Okay, and the other one, Bedminster 2, we have nothing still? Nothing? Nothing. Okay. All right, so I guess that's all we have. You need a motion to...
Wait, are we canceling? Are we canceling all the service? I'm sorry.
Well, we have nothing to put on there. I guess it's a cancel.
What was the one?
No ordinance.
So we get a vacation.
I don't have A1.
Move
Have it.
during the meeting. It's up here?
Oh, here we have it.
I think it's up here.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, all right. Okay. Okay, well, if we have nothing,
Sorry, I'm paying attention.
yes, if we have nothing, scheduled for then,
See ya.
I guess we can have a vacation. Yes.
No, we have not for August.
So we do have to notice, right, that, do we have to notice
No,
that?
we posted on the door.
You just post it? Okay, all right, because nothing's scheduled, okay. So we have a motion to adjourn?
And the second.
Okay.
Well,